The IRS just released the brand new 2026 401k contribution rules for everyone and Roth 401k rules for millions of high earning Americans. So, if you're over the age of 50, making over $145,000 a year, you need to pay close attention to the new catch up rule, whether you have a 401k, 403b, or 457 plan, because the way you save is about to change. According to the Federal Reserve data, about 1 in 5 people between the ages of 45 and 54 earn over $100,000. So if you're in that group, you might feel this rule more than you think. And let me know in the comment section down below if you max out your 401k every single year because you're trying to achieve financial independence faster than anyone you know around you. But anyway, let me go over section by section on how these new 401k rules will change your retirement investing strategy going into 2026. And for those of you who are too lazy to watch my entire video, I'll leave chapters in the description below. You're welcome. So first up, let's talk about the 401k contribution limits for 2026. And for all employees, regardless of your age, it's going to be $24,500. That's the maximum limit you can put between a traditional 401k and a Roth 401k. You could put $14,000 in your traditional 401k and another $10,500 in your Roth 401k, just as long as you do not exceed that $24,500. And this is a nice little jump, and it's the max you can put in from your paycheck or as an employee. Now, if you're someone who wants to max that out, let's break down what that looks like. If you get paid once a month, you're looking at $2,042 every month. And if you get paid bi-monthly or twice a month, that's $1,021 per paycheck. And if you're on a bi-weekly schedule, that's $943 every 2 weeks. And the number that really matters for building wealth is the total contribution limit. This is the maximum that both you and your employer can put into your account. For 2026, this is going to be $72,000. So how does this work? Well, 24,500 of that is from you, the employee, and your employer can contribute up to 47,500. So if you're a self-employed individual with a solo 401k, you could contribute both as an employee and an employer for up to $72,000. That makes sense so far, right? But what counts as an employer contribution? Well, it's the big one, the company match. If you contribute, say, 5% of your salary and your employer matches 5%, that 5% they give you goes into the employer bucket. This is also where any profit sharing contributions you get from the company come from if they're generous enough to share their profit with their employees. It's literally free money. And at a bare minimum, you should contribute enough to get the full employer match. Not doing that is like leaving a pile of cash on your boss's desk every single paycheck. And if you're one of the 30% Americans who have the mega backdoor Roth option with your 401k, you could personally contribute to that extra 47,500 as an after-tax contribution. But I'm going to make a separate video about that in the near future, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't done already. Now, let's talk to the 50 plus crowd, and this is your time to hit the gas. And for employees over the age of 50, you get to make catch-up contributions, and that catch-up limit is going to be $8,000. So you take the base, 24,500, and you add that $8,000 on top. That's a total of 32,500 you're putting away for the year. If you're going to max that out, the numbers get bigger, and that's $2,709 a month if you get paid once a month, and $1,355 every paycheck if you get paid twice a month on the 1st and the 15th, or $1,250 every 2 weeks if you get paid bi-weekly. This is how you seriously supercharge your nest egg as you get closer to retirement. And maxing out your 401k is very difficult to do, but it is on step 8 of my financial independence checklist, which you can also download for free by visiting 5stitch.com/resources. And people who are seriously working towards financial independence, whether they invest in a traditional 401k or a Roth 401k, have taken this crucial step to potentially retire earlier. But wait, there's more. And there's a special new tier that started in 2025 for employees between the ages of 60 and 63. For this specific age group, you get an even bigger super catch up, and which is going to be $11,250 in 2026, which is the same amount as 2025. So you take the 24,500 base, you add this $11,250 in catch up, and you get a total employee contribution of $35,750. So let's look at those numbers. To hit $35,750 a year, you're putting away $2,980 every single month if you get paid once a month. And if you get paid twice a month, that's $1,490 every paycheck. If you get paid every 2 weeks, that's going to be $1,375 every paycheck. That is aggressive, but let me tell you, if you're behind on your retirement and you can swing that in those 4 years, you're building an incredible launch pad for your retirement going into your late 60s and early 70s. All right, so we've talked about these big, exciting numbers. Now we have to talk about the catch. And this is the bad news I mentioned earlier. And this is the Roth catch up rule. And it kicks in fully in 2026. This was a very quiet way for Congress under the Secure Act 2.0 from 2022 to raise taxes on people earning more than $145,000 a year if they want to make these catch-up contributions we just talked about. This will affect people over the age of 50. And here's the new rule in a nutshell. Starting in 2026, they are going to look at your income from the previous year, which is 2025. If you're under $145,000 a year, no problem. You can make your catch-up contributions to either your traditional pre-tax 401k or your after-tax Roth 401k. You get the choice. But if your income was over $145,000 in 2025, you lose that choice. Your entire catch-up contribution must go into the Roth 401k bucket. And let's be crystal clear about this and what this means. The main 24,500 contribution, you can still put that in your traditional 401k or Roth 401k, but just the catch-up portion, that's forced into the Roth. So let's paint the picture. You're 50 years old in 2026 and you made over $145,000 in 2025. You want to make that $8,000 catch-up contribution in addition to your 24,500 base. And that $8,000 has to go into the Roth 401k, and you will pay income taxes on that $8,000 when you contribute in 2026. And same thing if you're turning 60 in 2026 and your income was over $145,000 in 2025, that entire $11,250 in super catch up, that has to go into the Roth portion of your 401k. Now, is this the end of the world? No. A Roth 401k is a fantastic tool, and that money grows tax-free, and you pull it out tax-free in retirement. But let's call this what it is, a tax hike for people earning over $145,000 through their catch-up 401k. And for decades, high-earning folks in their peak saving years use that catch-up to get a significant immediate tax break. So starting in 2026, that tax break on the catch-up portion is going to be gone if you earn $145,000 in 2025. But the big question is, how do you know for sure if you're at that $145,000 income level? And because this is critical, right? And this limit is based on your FICA wages from the prior calendar year. So to see if this rule will hit you in 2026, you need to look at your 2025 W-2. You're not looking at box 1, your wages, tips, other compensation. You're actually looking at box 3, Social Security wages. That's the magic number. If that number in box 3 is over $145,000 and you're over the age of 50, this rule applies to you. If you don't have your W-2 yet, you can always look at your current pay stub to see your year-to-date FICA wages. Now, this is the single biggest new rule for 2026, but there are a bunch of other provisions from the Secure Act 2.0 that are already in effect or are just now kicking in, and you need to be aware of them, so let's run through them now. Since January 1st, 2025, your 401k employer match goes into an HSA or HRA if your employer allows it. And if you don't know what an HSA is, it is a health savings account for people with a high deductible health plan, while an HRA stands for Health Reimbursement Arrangement. Now, HSA is an investment vehicle with triple tax advantages that you can put money in pre-tax dollars. It grows tax-free, and you can withdraw from it for anything after you turn 65 years old and pay the income tax. And I have plenty of videos about the HSA on my channel, so check them out when you get a chance. But anyway, by default, your 401k match from your employer goes into your 401k like you always see. It does not have to be a 401k. If your employer has a 403b plan or a governmental 457 plan, ask your employer to put the match wherever you think is most needed. But this also depends on whether your employer requests the 401k change option from the IRS. If your employer does not file the proper paperwork with the IRS, then they're not going to have the option to do this. And if your employer is not aware of this option, let them know and have them file a PLR to the IRS, which stands for private letter ruling. And another provision allows your employer to offer what's called student loan matching to the employee's 401ks. And this is especially beneficial for people who are repaying their student loans. So, for example, if your student loan repayment is $200 a month and your employer matches $200 per month based on your salary, and because you're not contributing to your 401k due to student loan repayment, your employer could still make the $200 match if you show proof that you're making student loan repayments. And keep in mind that matching has to vest under the same schedule as other matching contributions. So your employer could require you to work for that company for, let's say, 3 years to have the student loan matching completely vested, or you will have to pay your employer back and if you don't meet the vesting schedule. So make sure to ask your HR if they offer a student loan matching program for your 401k. Now, any employer that sets up a new 401k plan after December 29, 2022 must automatically enroll their employees. Your employer will also set the initial contribution rate, but you can make those changes as necessary. And the automatic 401k enrollment will apply to all private sector businesses with at least 10 employees and a business that is at least 3 years old. The initial automatic contribution rate is entirely up to the employer. They can set the initial contribution rate from 3% to 10% of your salary. And generally speaking, they do the initial contribution rate for their employees to get the employer match. 6% is probably the most commonly set contribution rate that I have seen. And you can actually change the contribution rate when you log into your personal 401k account. Now, the next provision that started in 2025 is the 401k eligibility for part-time workers. And if you have a part-time job because you're going to school, or you have a part-time job because your other full-time job is to be a parent for your children, this might apply to you. Before 2025, you have to work at least 1,000 hours in a calendar year or 500 hours over 3 consecutive years to qualify for a 401k. Now, those 3 years are reduced to 500 hours over 2 consecutive years. Now, what does 1,000 hours look like in a year? A full-time employee works 2,080 hours per year, assuming they work 40 hours a week. So if you work 20 hours a week, then you have the eligibility to invest in a 401k. If you work 10 hours a week, then you need to work 2 consecutive years to invest in your employer's 401k. What you need to keep in mind is that if you have multiple jobs and each job comes with a 401k, your contribution limit is per person and not per plan. You still need to make sure you don't exceed the base contribution limit of $24,500 or catch-up limit of $8,000 or $11,250. And here's another provision you should ask your employer if it's available to you, and that is to allow you to have the option to make your employer contributions or employer match converted to your Roth 401k instead of your traditional 401k by default. And keep in mind that this is still not implemented in every 401k plan. So it's only done if your employer and 401k allow you to do this. But if you do have the Roth option, it's especially beneficial for people who are in the lower income bracket or just starting out their careers. In the past, all of your employer contributions or matches were made only in pre-tax dollars or in the traditional portion of your 401k. But keep in mind that if you're a high income earner, you will end up paying more taxes for those employer contributions now if you choose to put them in the Roth account. Whether you should contribute to a traditional or Roth will depend entirely on your current financial situation, tax brackets, and future retirement income. You can always schedule a 60-minute consultation with me by visiting 560.com/consultation to discuss your finances in detail. So here's the thing. Your personal contribution cap is $24,500 or $32,500 if you're over 50, and up to $35,750 for ages 60 and 63. But the total limit, that's your contribution plus your employer's match and profit sharing, is $72,000. And the best part is your catch-up contribution does not count towards that limit. So if you are over 50, your true total potential in 2026 is $72,000 plus your $8,000 catch-up for a grand total of $80,000. And if you're between the ages of 60 and 63, your total contributions will be $72,000 plus your $11,250 in catch-up contributions for a grand total of $83,250. But the big headline, the new Roth catch-up rule applies to people over the age of 50 who made over $145,000 in 2025. And that's the one that will change how high income earners think about tax planning in retirement. If you're close to that income threshold, check your 2025 pay stub or W-2 when you have it. Talk to HR and review your strategy before 2026 kicks in, because once this rule takes effect, there's no going back. And stay tuned because I'll have a new video on the 2026 TSP rules in a few days for federal employees and military service members. And this has been another piece of the video, and we got a lot out of it.